My name is Matt Ritter. I'm a professor at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo on the Central Coast of California. I've worked in urban forestry for about 20 years now, and we have what's called the Urban Forest Ecosystems Institute here at Cal Poly, in which myself and a team of collaborating researchers create tools for people for better understanding California's urban forest in the Pacific Islands, and on our UFEI homepage. Here's our website here. I hope that all the participants can spend a little bit of time on this website. We have a suite of tools that help the public and urban foresters address challenges, many of the challenges that Natalie just talked about. These tools are primarily for California and the Pacific Islands. That's the U.S. Forest Service Region 5. But we have so many species that we deal with in California that I'll bring this up, that there are many species that we work with in California that are also being grown in other places in the United States. So in order to address the challenges of increasing diversity and resilience, we have to know what species we have, where they are, and how many of each of them there are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight two tools accessible on the UFEI homepage that address that. These are the Urban Tree Inventory and the Urban Tree Detector. I just circled them right there. The Urban Tree Inventory is an inventory which is a combination of public and private data that gives us the most comprehensive look at California's urban forest. The inventory data is over 7 million data points of what species occurs where, and this data was collected by professional arborists, and the data is pretty high quality. Each city using this urban forest inventory can filter the data to understand the diversity in their area. And each city can understand the composition of their urban forest and how they compare to other cities. The chart on the left there shows, if you just look at California in general, it shows the most common species in California, with the crepe myrtle being the winner, and the London plane tree, the Mexican fan palm. And then on the right there, you can see the species diversity in some of the different cities in California. So this is a tool that people can use to look at what's where in their cities. We also have our urban tree detector, and then this tree detector uses computer learning algorithms to count trees from aerial imagery. And so what you're seeing here is that you can see the blue points are actual inventoried, mostly public trees, and the red points are all the trees detected by the urban tree detector. And these are, this is, like Natalie said, the makeup of our urban forest is not just public trees. And one thing that we've learned from this data from the urban tree detector tool is that on average, only about 20% of the urban forest in California, and you can see it different cities in California here, on average, only about 20% of that urban forest is public, and 80% of it is private. And so it's clear that any large-scale urban forestry solutions need to involve the private sector. And we're working with a number of entities to try to figure out how do we get the private sector involved in any of our urban forestry solutions in California. Well, in order to meet the growing challenges facing our urban forest, tree species selection is now more critical than ever. In a changing climate, we can't just continue to grow the same species we have always planted. We need robust tree selection tools that where we can choose the right species not only for now but for into the future. And we're working on modeling the species based on their native range and their niche for where they currently grow based on inventory data in California, and we're putting this information out to the public in the form of a tool that we have developed over many years called Select Tree, and that's the link there on the left, circled in red. So Select Tree, this is an interactive tree selection guide, mostly for Western North America and the Pacific Islands. What SelectTree is just a database of, now we have about 2,200 species, tree species in that database, with about 60 characters for each of those 2,200 species, and well over 10,000 photos now of all those species. And so what you can do is, this is the homepage of SelectTree. You come there, you can actually just use it as a encyclopedia for trees and tree photos and their characters, but you can also query the database based on tree characteristics, and you can do that with a number of different tree characteristics there. I've circled height, I've circled foliage type, whether you're evergreen or not. So for somebody, for instance, somebody could come to the website and say, I would like a deer resistant evergreen tree that grows less than 50 feet tall, and then it would query the database and give you back the results of that. So a new feature that we've developed to deal with climate appropriate plantings is the search by zip code feature. So you can search trees that are capable of thriving in your area. In the future, also, we'll be adding trees that are appropriate for climate futures of different parts of California with regards to taking our modeling work and serving it to the public in that way. Each species, once you come to a species page, has a large amount of character information for each of these species and many photos. The thing I tried to mention earlier, but I'll mention now, is that in California, we have a ridiculous amount of diversity, and we have so much diversity in our climate types as well, that most of all the species that are being grown and commonly in the rest of the United States are also grown in California. So if you spend a little bit of time on SelectTree, if you're in Montreal or you're in New York or in Florida, you'll find species that are commonly grown in your area here on SelectTree as well. So another feature that we're pretty excited about now is the ability to create your own user account on SelectTree, and then you can once you've created that account, then you can begin to make your own lists of trees. This is a feature that we've developed over the last few years, and Ian's going to be talking about next. He'll be talking about the application of this new tool. You can search, you can make lists public or private. You can search all the public lists, and here's some examples of just a list of public lists that people have made of different areas, trees of the Sonoma Plaza, or trees for planting in the Salton Sea, those types of things. And you can search lists based on keywords. For example, finding all the lists related to planting in schools, which is an important projects that are going on now in California that Natalie mentioned. That you can look at the different schools, including universities and so on, where people are doing plantings. So you can add collaborators on a list and have multiple people working on a list at the same time and being able to edit it, add species and deleting species. You can also download lists and print lists. You can share the static link with anybody, and Ian will talk about that, sharing the link to communicate with the public about different trees that are on lists. And that list feature, we think and hope it's going to be really great for encouraging people to plant appropriate species, and ability to for people who are working in the urban forest to be able to communicate accurately and well and show pictures of species with people, so that they can get information about that species that we need for the future. Like I said, these are challenging times in urban forestry, and it's a good time to be able to have really good communication tools in order to be able to help the public along as we transition into a new species palette in the Western United States. So with that, these are just, again, here's our homepage. These are some of the tools that we've created on that Urban Forest Ecosystems Institute website at Cal Poly to help people manage and deal with the challenges in the urban forest. And now we get to hear from Ian Kesterson, City of Berkeley, about specific applications for SelectTree and the new list feature that we'll have. So with that, I will stop my share and pass it over to Ian Kesterson.